My name is Jess and I make silver jewelry, and I thought perhaps you would enjoy a little video showing how I make some of my more basic rings. I have one right here. This is a very small, I call them my wee rings. They're just very small, very petite, but very cute, easy to wear every day. And I thought it might be fun to show you how I make them. So, let's see. First things first, I have my wire that I use to make the rings, and I have my handy little credit card-ish thing, what has the ring sizes all nicely laid out here to measure. It's kind of cheating, but it works pretty well, and it's from Hoover & Strong, who is my favorite metal supplier because they recycle instead of mining. So I'm just going to mark off, and I'm going to say I want this to be a size 7, but because I'm actually going to be making a setting for the stone as well, I'm going to make them actually closer to a 6 1/4 to allow room for the setting. So I'm just going to mark that, and then I'll go to cut it. And then I just use my saw frame to just quick and easily cut off the length that I need. All done. And now I take that length that I just cut, and I use a little needle file that is square shaped to help me pre-notch where I'm going to make a circular shaped file mark. So I just line up the middle of that edge with the middle of the piece and just make a little groove. Feel like Bob Ross, happy little trees, happy little groove. And just do that on both sides. And the reason I use the square is so that there's a little notch right there that I can then turn to my circular file. And this is where I cut the seat for the tube that is going to be the setting for the stone. So then I just come back, and on both sides you want to kind of file at an upward angle so that when you bend the wire into the ring shape, it actually makes the notch more straight up and down, if that makes sense. I'm not very good at explaining mechanical things. And I just like to check and make sure. You can see that, I don't know how good my camera is, but you can see that's a little circular sort of hole right there. And that is going to be, so that eventually, this would be the tube that I'm going to put the stone into, and that's going to be able to sit right in that notch like that. Sorry, my camera's a little blurry. It doesn't like being close up. I know a couple of people who don't like being close up. And I'm just going to do the same thing on both sides. And you want them to be as close to the same size as possible. So I just kind of take it a little slow so that I get a nice little circular notch. And that's pretty good. So now all I'm going to do is take this piece of metal and drop it, and then put it on my soldering block, maybe. And I like to try and make sure that the little bow is facing up just so it'll slink down. And I'm going to heat it up a lot with fire. And this is just a process called annealing, and it makes the wire, the metal, very soft and easy to form. So I just heat it pretty evenly, and you'll see there it goes, it starts to snug. And that's one of the benefits of working with argentinium. And then I'm just going to quickly quench it. And quenching it finishes annealing it so that it's nice and soft. So now I'm just going to use my ring mandrel and take my piece of metal and just put it on there and use my fingers to just sort of start giving it that circular shape that we know and love for rings. Now I'm going to use a plastic mallet just to tap those top edges down. That's pretty good. So what you get is a roughly circular ring shape with a nice circular hole right here. And you can see that the tube just nicely fits right in there. So the next step is to cut a small part of this tube to act as the setting. I have my handy tube cutting jig, and I'm just gonna put the tube in there. And I usually make the setting about, probably 4 millimeters tall-ish. So just go ahead and cut your little tiny section of tube out. It's all very exciting, I promise. So here we have a tiny piece of tube. It's very cute. And I'm just going to kind of unceremoniously shove that into this hole. And now you can see it almost looks like a ring without a stone. So time to solder that into place. So what I do is I take my little snips, and this is just solder right here, and I'm going to cut off 2 teeny tiny little tiny parts and just plop them onto the soldering pad there with the ring. And each one of those is for one of the seams where the edge of the wire touches the edge of the tube. And then I'm going to get my fire going again. And I like to use a spray flux. It's cool, it's blue. You just heat the piece up a little bit first and spray that right on. And if you can see the steam rising, you're not supposed to inhale that. Get it from all sides. So now it's nice and fluxed. And then I'm going to use my solder pick and just heat up one of those little pieces of solder. And the heat will make it stick to your solder pick. And then just put it on the seam there. You want to do that with on both sides. And then just heat the ring up evenly to make the solder flow. And then you just put that in the pickle, which is what metal people call this nice acid stuff that cleans all this gross looking stuff off of the ring after you solder.